Hi there! I am just editing my latest video, which I actually recorded about 3 weeks ago. And I've been taking a look at it, and there are a number of mistakes in it, which I'm thinking of what I can do about it. See, normally when I make my videos, I don't really have all that much time. It's kind of like, suddenly, now's my chance. I rush upstairs, throw up the camera, try to shoot it all within about 30, 40, 50 minutes, and then pack everything down again. And what I'm pulling out of my head is quite often stuff that's been stuffed away up there for the last even 2 or 3 decades, or things that I read recently but haven't properly sorted yet. So I'll often be getting names wrong or dates wrong, and if I notice it, I'll put it down at the bottom of the screen. However, I think in this case, I'm just going to interject in the video and make my corrections. So let's get on with my latest video. What am I talking about? Let's find out. Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Peter Sco for Music is a Journey. This is episode 33. And usually when I make my plans for episodes, I have a bunch of ideas that I list out roughly when I'm going to do what. However, today's episode was something that just struck me a couple of weeks ago. You see, I often watch the YouTube channel No Life Til Metal, which is hosted by Scott Waters. Scott Waters is a huge metal fan. He's got tons of CDs and vinyl, mostly of 80s and 90s stuff, but also a lot of 70s stuff. Actually, he does. He goes way back to the 70s. He did a whole series of hard and heavy music from like 1970 all the way up through the 80s. But anyway, Scott Waters, he is also the singer in a band called Ultimatum. And he also does a lot of the design work for the layouts inside albums for different bands. He does the text arrangement or arranges the photos. I think he does some of the artwork as well. And he often talks about a lot of different bands, of course, introduces different albums. And recently he did a series where a bunch of albums came back where he had done some of the work, either the text layout or something like that. And all the bands that he talked about were Christian bands. Now, Scott Waters is Christian himself. Of course, that doesn't mean that he only listens to Christian metal. He has, like I said, stuff going way back to the 70s. He listens to all kinds of metal and loves it. But he is Christian, and because of that, he names a lot of Christian bands and artists. Now, the thing is that sometime back in my life, back around 1988 or so, I also decided to pursue a Christian lifestyle. I'll tell you now, it lasted for a few years, and later on I felt it just didn't really suit me, or I didn't suit it, or anyway, that is a completely different story. But just so you know, there was about 5 or 6 years there where I was buying a lot of Christian music, originally on cassette, and then later on I was buying a lot of stuff on CDs. And a lot of this, the groups that Scott Waters introduces on the No Life Til Metal channel, a lot of the albums he talks about are albums I used to have. For example, he introduces Guardian, Shout, Bride, Vengeance Rising, Deliverance, Seventh Angel, Holy Soldier, and a bunch of other ones. And I had a lot of this stuff on cassette or on CD, and actually a lot of it was really good. Just when I thought, well, you know, I'm not really Christian, it doesn't mean that the teachings didn't stay with me. There are a lot of important teachings in Christianity and in other religions too that teach you about basically being a good person, a good human being. And those teachings I found invaluable, and I kept them with me. I learned a lot. But anyway, once I decided, the Christian life wasn't exactly... I didn't suit it or whatever. I started to sell off a lot of the albums because a lot of things were kind of experimental. I bought things because of friends told me about them, and I thought, okay, well, I'll check it out. And yeah, I never listened to music like this before, so it's kind of interesting. But later on I thought, yeah, maybe I don't really need to keep it. And so little by little I got rid of stuff. And unfortunately I found out that there are a lot of albums where there are actually songs that I really liked. And I ended up getting rid of them, even though I kept them for so long because of those songs I liked. Recently I found I don't have them anymore, and I actually sold them off a few years ago. So the one thing I learned is never get rid of CDs unless A, you really don't like them, never have, or B, you bought a remastered version that just sounds better and maybe has bonus tracks and something. But anyway, I'll just give you a little background story. My parents were Danish immigrants, so coming from Denmark, they were raised Danish Lutheran. we had a Danish Lutheran church in the city I grew up in Canada, because there happened to be a lot of Danish immigrants in the area. So there was a Danish Lutheran church. We attended the social events. We did not attend regular church on Sundays. We never went for Easter or Christmas. We attended for the social events so that the Danes could, gather and share their culture, share the food, and share the language and so on. So that was basically my experience with the church growing up, visiting for cakes and stuff. But yeah, somewhere around 1988 or so, by that time already I'd been listening to Striper, because, Striper were kind of the big thing that came out. And interestingly enough, there was a program, a Canadian entertainment program, that did an episode on Christian metal. And because it was a Canadian program, they also featured a band called Daniel Band out of Toronto, who were also kind of hard rock, 80s metal type band. And so because of that program, I managed to pick up a Daniel Band cassette as well. But anyway, yeah, I started to pursue it a little more seriously. I started attending my high school youth group meetings. I think they were every Friday, and other students, classmates and so on, who were already Christian, hung out with them. I went to, one girl invited me to her Catholic church, which was interesting because, yeah, I knew it was going to be very formulaic. They say it's a lot of stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. But the thing was that when they broke the bread, and they held communion anyway, and I went up for the bread and the wine, and when I came back, my friend said, "Did you go up? But you shouldn't do that. You're not Catholic. You have to go to Sunday school and blah, 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 before you can do that." And I thought, why? I know what it's about. I've read about it. I understand the significance. I mean, I can't go up because I haven't done so much Sunday school or something. So anyway, that just seemed to me too much of an exclusive club. And another girl I knew, she was going to be baptized because she was a born-again Christian, and she went to a Pentecostal church. And I remember the inside of the church was really gorgeous. They had this beautiful stage and this grand piano, and this guy in this suit with this amazing hair was dramatically playing the piano. And when he finished, he straightened up, and then he turned at us and gave us this huge smile. And I just thought, man, if you are selling used cars, I do not want to be buying from you. Anyway, I imagined that my friend was going to come up with other youngsters anyway and be baptized at a baptismal font, and there wasn't any to be seen. But the priest or pastor or whatever was standing at the back behind this plexiglass barrier, and then he called on the young folks to come down, and they came down in these white gowns down the stairs behind the plexiglass, and then you could see water was back there. They'd filled the whole back area with water, and everybody was just getting dunked in the water like the River Jordan type of thing, right? So I got the impression that, okay, well, this place has a lot of show. It's very visual. That's not really my thing either. I went to another place, visited some Friday night youth group things. I met a lot of cool people. There were some really great people. Some people you could, become really good friends with and talk about whatever. It didn't have to be Jesus in your life or something like that. They were great folks. And there were also some strange folks. I remember this one guy, he was missing teeth. He looked like a really rough dude. And he said, Jesus said that when someone smacks you, you should turn the other cheek. But he never said what you should do after they smack that cheek. Kind of hinting like, if someone smacks you once, you turn the other cheek. But if someone smacks you again, it's all right to go at it with fists flying. Anyway, in the end, I ended up going to the Danish Lutheran Church, and I felt most comfortable there because, first of all, I think most people were there because of the cultural significance. They were all Danes. They had all grown up in Denmark, going to church probably as kids, so it was more of a cultural thing rather than a religious thing. The pastors that I met were really cool. I mean, I could talk to them about geology, I could talk to them about dinosaurs or whatever, and they were all cool to talk about. They had no problems with talking about millions of years in the past, which I thought was really great. One pastor, he even listened to Bruce Springsteen and Leonard Cohen. So, I mean, these guys were really cool. The atmosphere was laid back, and I was invited to do some slide presentations showing nature photos and so on. So that was really great. Yeah, but in the end, of course, as I said, the Christian lifestyle didn't quite fit with me. and I moved on. But anyway, I did keep a lot of the music. As I said, I sold off a lot of things, which I shouldn't have done, but I did keep a lot of it. And it's quite diverse. So I'm going to just share with you now some of the albums that I still have and tell you about some of the bands, because there's a lot of really great artists to talk about here. Okay, so first up, I'd like to talk about Petra. Petra are probably like the band. Yeah, everybody knows about Stryper because they made it really big outside of the Christian music world, but Petra are just awesome. They started out, I think, as a kind of country rock band in the late 70s. Okay, I'm going to interject right here now. It was not the late 70s. Petra actually formed in 1972, and they released their first album in 1974. Yes, as I said, I made this video, recorded it about 3 weeks ago or so. Since then, I was really curious, and I decided to go out and check out their debut album. Here it is from 1974. And it is not country rock, really. I'd say it's more southern rock. And in with the times, it's quite advanced. Like, there's some pretty tricky playing and stuff. It's quite an interesting album. But yes, it is a Christian rock album, so plenty of reference to Jesus and the Bible and living right. But anyway, Petra 1974 debut. But by the 80s, they switched to kind of a more hard rock, pseudo-progressive rock style. Something in the way of bands like Night Ranger or Journey, but they had their own style. Their vocalist, Greg Vox. Not Greg Vox. I think I've mixed up the letters of his name. It's Greg X Volz. V-O-L-Z. I might be pronouncing it wrong, but that's what his name was. He had that more kind of soulful vocals, the powerful soulful vocals. Bob Hartman, guitarist. I think he's been with the band since the very beginning. I think it's his band. Awesome player. This album here, more power to ya. Ooh, what do I say here? 1982. Wow, it's older than I thought. That's why it sounds old. But one song in here, rose-colored stained glass windows. Excellent guitar solo. Just one of those really emotional type guitar. So like the chords, the notes go in with the chords. Everything is just played really great. I like this. I had 2 of the other albums afterwards on cassette. I'm thinking about maybe getting them again. Okay, actually I'm not thinking about getting them again because a lot of Petra's older albums are only available on vinyl. They don't have them reissued as CD, or where there are any CDs, a lot of them are just simply out of print and unavailable. And a couple of them that I actually used to have on cassette, I went and listened to them on YouTube. I think those ones I don't need to get again. There's only one other one I'd really like to add to my collection. I'll tell you about it in the video though. They had a whole series of albums with these guitar artwork themes on the covers, and I remember one song called Bema Seat. The opening riff for it, it sounds just like Lady Starstruck from Rainbow. And they have another song from this album here, Beyond Belief. This is, I think, from 1990. What was it called now? Seen and Not Heard? It sounds a lot like Kiss, Heaven's on Fire. Da, 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 da. Anyway, interesting. But this is actually also a really cool album. They had a new vocalist here. I think his name is Rob Schlitt. No, his name is not Rob Schlitt, it's John Schlitt. And I just found out something very interesting about John Schlitt. He was in a band called Head East, which formed in 1969. In 1974, they released their first album, Flat as a Pancake. Hey, 1974, same as Petra's debut year. Interesting. Anyway, by the end of the 70s, John Schlitt was suffering from drug dependency, and for that reason he was dismissed from the band. I guess he went into rehabilitation, but certainly he became a born-again Christian and later on got the job of being the lead vocalist for Petra. And I think he's carried through with them up until the present day, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, very powerful hard rock style vocals, you know, lots of power to the voice, but that kind of raspy edge to it, really cool. This is a brilliant album, and they actually won a Grammy Award for this album as Best Religious or Best Christian Album or something like that, which I was really glad about because, you know, it's a good hard rocking album. Beautifully done. They had another one called On Fire, which I actually had on CD, and I don't know why I got rid of it because it was also a really great hard rock album. The last one of theirs I bought, I think it's 1991, 92. This is called Wake Up Call. Here, they went away. This is the kind of really big production sound, the loud drums, lots of keyboards and stuff. Here they went back to basically just one guitar, one keyboard, one bass, one drum, and one vocal type thing. Very few overdubs. It just has that more simplified sound to it. And the final track, Just Reach Out, I can listen to this track like 3 times straight. I really love that song. Petra are a praise band. I mean, every song is a kind of inspirational thing. They had a whole album of praise songs, which I used to have. The praise stuff gets a little bit, tiresome for me, but basically Petra's music is great. The band write great music, great songs, great vocals, good stuff. So if you can get over all the, Jesus promotion, that's what they're all about. It's good. Okay, this one here is a real big surprise. This is Amy Grant. Look at that cover. This is not something you would find in my CD collection. However, somebody let me hear a track on here called Fat Baby, which is a jazz vocal arrangement and a humorous type song. If I can recall some of the lyrics, I could actually sing the whole thing from start to finish. But I'm going to go into the middle of the song, it goes like, he's been baptized, sanctified, redeemed by the blood, but his daily devotions are stuck in the mud. He knows the books of the Bible, and John 3:16, he's got the biggest King James you've ever seen. Yeah, for that I bought this, and I have to admit, as an album for what it is, it's really good. It's diverse. It's got some more powerful, uplifting songs. They have some more reflective, slower type songs that are not necessarily exactly Christian. They could be played on secular radio and they'd get away with it. Since then, I've listened to the whole album through, and I'd say there's probably only one song that could sneak by as a non-Christian song if you didn't totally pay attention to the lyrics. The rest of the album is pretty much a Christian album. This was Amy Grant's, I think, her 3rd or 4th album, and it was her kind of big breakthrough album. One track on here, El Shaddai, that just really got her known in the Christian music world. This also goes back to 1982 as well. And one of the folks, she made it really big by the late 80s and early 90s and actually crossed over into the secular market, if you remember that. But someone who plays keyboards on that is Michael W. Smith, who later on went off with his own solo career. This is also not an album that I would have because this is a pop album, and I am really not into pop albums. However, there is some couple of tracks on here that have an African children's choir, and the tracks that they join in on, it's really good. It might almost be a bit like something Paul Simon might have, I think. But anyway, for those couple of tracks, I kept it. And listening to it again, it doesn't give me the chills that it used to give me, but it's still pretty good. And I've learned my lesson that if I get rid of this, I'm going to miss it in another 5-10 years from now. So I'm keeping it. Michael W. Smith. Okay, here's one I will not get rid of. This is Russ Taff. And this is Under Their Influence, Volume 1. I'm not sure what he normally does, but for this he went back to 1950s inspired blues with a bit of country rock and gospel feel to it, and it's just incredibly done. This is a brilliant album. Yes, it's a Christian album. Every song is about something to do with Christian faith, belief in God, guidance, all this kind of thing, but it's just wonderful. The vocals, backing vocals, the kind of gospel type singer vocals, the harmony vocals, blues guitar, and so on. It's just a brilliant album. So because of that, I could not get rid of this. And I'm actually enjoying listening to it again now for the first time in 20 years. Similar to that, we have Mansfield Turner. I think these are 2 guitar dudes. They did one here, Blues with a Feeling. I think it's basically all blues cover tunes because they have People Get Ready. That song was, I don't know when it started, but, Vanilla Fudge did it, Rod Stewart did it. They also have Nobody's Fault But Mine, Led Zeppelin cover. And this is just basically a good blues, very much blues-based rock album. Great vocals, great music, great guitar work. Brilliant. Okay, another really cool guy. Phil Keaggy. This is the only album of his I have. It's the only one I ever heard. Most of these people, I only picked up the one. I went in the Christian bookstore, listened to the sample, and thought, that's great, I'm getting it. And actually, I don't remember most of this album, except tracks 2 and 3, Strong Tower and Carry On, are just really brilliant rock songs. Kind of reminds me of Paul McCartney's style, Paul McCartney rock style. Just great stuff. I should listen to the rest of the album. I'm sure the rest of it is good too. Anyway, that's Phil Keaggy. This is also going back. All this stuff is basically going back to the early 90s or, in some cases back into the 80s. Here's Daniel Band, as I told you about, Running Out of Time. Honestly, listening to this now, it sounds really dated. I think this is 1987 or so. It's their fourth album, I think. This, apparently, I just read today, was remastered in 2012, and the reviewer said that the two albums are like day and night. It sounds so much better now. Their older albums really have a strong kind of Rush, Triumph feel, because I guess they're all out of Toronto, right? And I listened to their first 2 or 3 albums, a few selected songs. Sounds really good. I actually should have talked about these guys during my 1980s Canadian hard rock and heavy metal episode. Really cool. So I went ahead and ordered the second album, and I've got my eyes on their first and third. And the second album arrived. And you know what? It's actually quite good. I'd say it's kind of like a younger brother to Triumph and a little bit of Rush. It's not as advanced, but it is actually quite a good album. So, maybe the first album is next on my hit list? Yeah. And maybe that means I'll just have to get the fourth and the remaster of this one here. This is Running Out of Time. Anyway, really good music, just the sound is dated, so maybe that remaster is worth checking out. Alright, another Canadian group. This is a group, they originally went by the name Hocus Pick Manure. Manure. Oh my gosh. Sorry guys. Hocus Pick Maneuver. They're actually from Richmond, British Columbia. Richmond is the city just south of Vancouver, where the international airport is. Their first 2 albums I had as a single CD called The Independents. Man, were they ever independent. Their vocalist, Russ, I forget his last name, he needed a lot of work. The band had something, but man, did it ever need a lot of work. But it was still fun. It was still good. Like, the ideas were there. This is their third album, Pick It Up, and it started coming together. The vocals still need some help, but the music is starting to come together. And one of the things I really like about this band is that they are a comedy band. So, okay, when I say comedy band, I don't mean that they're jokes all the way through. What I mean is that they're a band who put in funny lyrics sometimes, or they like to make funny videos. So, it's not a comedy band exactly. They are a serious Christian band, but they like to have fun. Let's put it that way. They have, of course, serious Christian band, but they do have songs that are funny or fun, like funny lyrics and so on. And that came out, I think, throughout their career, which went from the late 80s through to the late 90s. This is their next album, the fourth one, Brothers from Different Mothers. The music on here, man, that went up a step, a big step. This is a really well done album. Russ's vocals are coming along very nicely. There was even a track on here, Bye Bye Bye. It was actually being played on the regular Top 40 radio around Vancouver back in the day of 1990. Oh my guys, I need glasses. 2 years ago I said I don't need glasses. No, I do. 1994, I guess. Anyway, I really like this band. Like, they were really fun, and I used to have a VHS of them. Really fun videos. If you catch one called Sofa Logic, it was filmed around Simon Fraser University. And another one, I'm So Happy, from an album I don't have. It's also a very entertaining video. And yeah, now I've got my eye on 1 or 2 more of their albums. Just, they're really good. I like this band. Okay, there were a lot of that kind of late 80s, early 90s glam metal types. And not necessarily the glam look, but just that sound, that I guess it's considered glam metal by the style. It's not really heavy, but you know. And Idle Cure were one of those bands. This is the only one I actually kept in the end, just because I remember there were some really cool songs on here. I think Shake It Up is the one that I really loved, but this is a very good album. If you like that kind of late 90s, late 80s, who can I compare it to now? I got rid of most of my bands of that type, but Idle Cure, Eclipse, check it out. Maybe some of their other albums are worth listening to as well. I think they're a good band. I kept it. even though I got rid of other bands that I liked, like Holy Soldier and one band called Poor Old Lou. They were a grunge band out of Seattle. It came out in 92 or something. They had one song I totally loved, and I said, I'm never getting rid of this album for that song. I can't find it. And anywhere, it's gone. I think I just ended up selling it off anyway, so I have to get... They're on Bandcamp, though. Poor Old Lou. They have a number of albums, but that one is on Bandcamp. Okay, I'm going to shuffle the stacks around here, so I'm going to pause the video for a moment. Back around the early 90s, I got into artists like Sarah McLachlan and Jan Arden, these kind of female folk artists who were basically folk-oriented, but not, I don't know, hard to say. But you know how they are, right? Sarah McLachlan, how she was in the early 90s, Jan Arden. And I found this singer here, Jan Christ. Now, this album, there are probably hints of Christian belief, but there is no reference exactly that I can hear in the lyrics to say something about Jesus or God or something like this. So you could buy this album, Winging a Prayer, and you could listen to it, and it's just a beautiful, brilliant album. I really like Jan's songwriting, her vocals, the music, and so on. It's great. I love it. I should probably get more of her stuff. She has quite a few albums out. Just, you know, I got this one and I like it, so what if I get another one and I don't like it as much? Anyway, Jan Christ. Now, here is a band that I actually am thinking of getting back into again. This is The Choir. This is the most recent Christian album I have. It's actually from 1996. I'm really surprised I have it. Free Flying Soul. They actually formed way back in the early 80s as the Youth Choir and later changed their name. I had two other albums. Their 88 album called Chase the Kangaroo. I don't know why I don't have it now, because there are some great songs on there, so I'm probably going to have to buy it again. And the album that came after that, Wide-Eyed Wonder. Their style is that kind of melodic, slower paced, a little bit, not melancholic, I guess, kind of alternative rock. Sometimes a bit fun and uplifting, but just really good, strong melodies. I really do like a lot of their music, and I kept this one because I thought it's a great album. But I think I'm going to have to go back and visit them again. The Choir, I like what they do. So this is Free Flying Soul. Cool. This is an interesting one. I think I just kept it because it's interesting. The band is called Fluffy. The album is called Go Fluffy Go. There's dandelions, a sketch of a four-legged creature, something that looks like something from an autopsy, and a little kitten on the back. This is basically just a heavy punk type band. I don't know what else to say. It's the kind of heavy alternative, I don't know, punk type thing. It's just interesting, and I kept it. They do a really good cover of Jessie's Girl by Rick Springfield on here. So that's, yeah, I still have it. Okay, this one, I'm really glad I kept it. This is Curious Fools, their debut album, and the reason why, I mean, it's a good, solid, alternative rock album, very well done, but I'm really glad I kept it because the drummer, Shane Atkinson, he is the guy who's behind Evership now, the prog band Evership. He's the one who does the keyboards, songwriting, and everything, and Evership is brilliant. And when I found out that Evership's mastermind, Shane Atkinson, used to be in Curious Fools, I was like, I hope I still have the CD. And I do. And there it is. I think they released 3 albums before breaking up. But yeah, Curious Fools, Shane Atkinson, awesome. I was also into some of these kind of more technical or techno or electronic type bands. There was one, Lifesavers Underground. I think the one album I had, it was just like programmed drums and programmed synth and so on. I didn't actually like it all that much, but they had another one called Pop Life, which was just like guitar, bass, drums, fun surfer punk pop type thing. But and there was this other band, I really cannot remember their name. It was 2 guys. It was this really dark, almost like industrial type thing. Pretty cool sounding though. But in the end, there was only one song I really liked, and I got rid of it. I shouldn't have, because I cannot find who they are now. I've searched. But one band I did keep was Deityphobia. Yeah, it's probably a little bit too electronic techno type thing for me now, but still I remember there were some things I liked about it, so I've kept it. And yeah, there's still some tracks on here that are cool to listen to. All right, I think we're coming down to the last two of the bands that I still have. There were other ones. Jacob's Trouble. Yeah, I think in the end I probably didn't need to keep that one there. It was good at the time. Yeah, Mike Stand, who was originally with the Altar Boys, who went off and did a solo album. Basically a good John Cougar Mellencamp meets Bryan Adams kind of acoustic guitar rock album. It was really good. Mike Stand, Lifesavers Underground, I mentioned, Jacob's Trouble, Mad at the World. They started out as this kind of like techno pop band with these pseudo British accents, and later on turned to this like heavy alternative rock band. And I don't know, they changed their style a lot over their albums, and I also hung on to their albums for a long time before finally deciding to get rid of them. And yeah. But anyway, two more to mention. This one here is Iona. This is their debut album. They are from Ireland. And the interesting story about this was I met a girl who worked in a bookstore, and she introduced me to Enya. And at that time, as I said, I was doing nature and landscape slide presentations at the Danish church as well as other places. And I was always looking for music to go along with those slide presentations, and she introduced me to Enya, and I thought, okay, I have to remember that. And one day I walk into the Christian bookstore, like a few weeks after talking to that girl, and I see Iona. Now Enya's Irish, and Iona are Irish, and I listened to some of the music. I thought, it's maybe this is it, maybe this is the group she was talking about. So I bought this album, and of course it's not Enya. Iona also appear on Prog Archives, which I was really kind of surprised to find. That's really cool. There were a couple of tracks from here I actually did use in my slide programs. I missed their second album, but I got their third, Beyond These Shores. The title track, the vocals by Joan Hogg, are so good. A lot of this is not really what I normally listen to, but when Iona hits it, they really hit it for me. So I did keep that. And I also got, I think it was their fourth album, was it called Journey into the Morn? So I've kept these three Iona albums thinking I'm not going to get rid of them. I'm keeping them. And yeah, I'm really glad I did. Okay, one more band I gotta mention. When Scott Waters talks about Christian metal bands, and I'm going, oh man, I sold that off. I don't have it anymore. One band I did hang on to is Tourniquet. Debut album, Stop the Bleeding, Psychosurgery, the next album, Pathogenic Ocular Dissonance, the third album. This is really brilliant, technical thrash, almost progressive. Drummer Ted Kirkpatrick is astounding. I had a cousin come over from Denmark. He said, you gotta hear this band Dream Theater. The drummer is amazing. And I said, well, let me play you a Ted Kirkpatrick drum solo. And his jaw dropped. Ted is brilliant. Okay, so that's Tourniquet. And then their vocalist Guy Ritter left. There were some lineup changes, and they brought in, I forgot his name now, Luke Easter. How could I forget that? I forgot his name. Luke somebody. Anyway, he came in for Vanishing Lessons and the EP Carry the Wounded. After that, I didn't buy any more Tourniquet albums, but all of these are great. This is a band that really knows how to put stuff together. This is less thrashy and a little more rough sounding, but really cool stuff, Tourniquet. And that's it. I'm going to have to bring back some of those albums like The Choir and get some of the Daniel Band and maybe pick up some Petra again. And it's really good music. So, yeah. Anyway, that's my episode 33, sharing with you my Christian album collection. Wow, I actually never thought I would do an episode about that. But hey, thank you, Scott Waters. You inspired me. All right. We'll get back with more stuff later in episode 34. That's all for today. I'm baking up here. It's hot. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next episode. So, there's the end of that. My apologies for all the interruptions, but I hope the information I dealt out was a little bit more accurate than it would have been had I not interjected and done anything about it. Okay, so as I said in the video, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye. I've always wondered if he'll grow up someday. He's mama's boy and he likes it that way. If you happen to see him, won't you tell him I said he'll never grow if he never gets fed.